Natural entry and exit points. Where there is an indication of deliberate sign, the tracker will look for natural entry and exit locations, and in doing so, will find a good start point. This theory is best described by our normal attitude of everyday life. When we enter a room, we generally go through the door, even though there is a window we could climb through and a wall in which we could break a hole. We do so in the understanding that the door is the logical choice of entry and exit. If the door becomes jammed and we were trapped in the room, more than likely the second most logical choice of exit would be the window. If we were a prisoner of war or in jail, we might consider trying to dig our way out or breaking the wall to aid our escape, but this would only be in the worst case scenario. The same natural choices are presented in tracking. If we enter a forest which is comprised of many trees, we do not climb up and down the tree, we go around them, taking the easiest route that will lead to our destination. The same goes in the jungle or a city for that matter. We take the logical, easiest route, which will get us to our destination the quickest. Therefore, a good tracker will simply look at the most logical direction of travel of the quarry and select a route based on the natural entry or exit points. The effects of weather. Sun, rain, wind, snow, and freezing weather conditions can all affect sign inasmuch as they will change the appearance of the sign or make them disappear altogether. The time span over which the change takes place will be dependent on the severity or type of weather conditions. For example, a fresh fall of snow might only half conceal previously made footprints. Likewise, the sun may dry temporary sign left by a wet print after leaving water. The major effects of the elements on sign are: sun. The sun has a drying effect. In some cases, this may be helpful or detrimental to the tracker, depending on the effect. The sun will help preserve a wet footprint in clay conditions, while drying out sign that could be left on rocks or other solid surfaces. A broken branch will also be more prominent as it will have dried and changed color, making it more notable than what it was when initially broken. At the same time, some grasses that have been trodden down may well recover to some degree. Rain. Rain will melt snow, wash away a clear footprint, and generally deface most types of sign. Rain is not good when you are tracking. However, if you have the direction of travel clearly defined, the rain will help you move ahead as it will mask any noise you will make. Snow. Tracking and identification in virgin snow is fairly easy. If you also know the time of the last snowfall, you should be able to estimate how far ahead your quarry is. Fresh snowfall will help cover the spoor, but it takes a lot to fill deep footprints. The degree of snowfall will alter depending on if the footprints are out in the open or in a forested area. Wind. Depending on the terrain, will determine how much effect the wind has on sign. The wind can move leaves, drift snow and sand. It can also help reinstate trodden grass and dry out wet footprints. Over time, wind has an eroding effect on all sign. Freezing conditions. A footprint made in wet ground can remain for any length of time if it is frozen. Freezing preserves sign to a certain degree, especially in winter conditions. Deception. There are many other factors that affect tracking, one of which is the awareness of the quarry. An animal grazing will wander aimlessly looking for the best food, while a human enemy soldier might wish to break contact and make to safe ground as quickly as possible. If the quarry becomes aware of your presence, they will take action. A wild animal getting scent of your approach will almost certainly run, while a human may try to deceive you. Many people have tried to deceive a tracker by frequent turning around and walking, thus making backward footprints. This could also mean that someone in the party is constantly looking backwards to see if they are being followed. In this case, the tracker will spot the deep, short heel prints, which are a clear indication of someone walking backwards in an effort to throw the tracker off the spoor. A professional tracker will spot these, as someone walking forward does not simply start walking the other way. So he will ignore these and continue to follow the reverse footprint for some time, in the belief that the quarry will once more turn in the original direction. Using a branch to rub out or obliterate the sign is also fairly easy for a professional tracker to spot. The tracker will suddenly see no sign, but if he looks carefully, he may well see half a footprint with the other half brushed over. If the deception has been done in haste, there may also be evidence of the brush marks themselves. In such a case, the tracker will look for the obvious exits and check that the quarry has not chosen an exit off the route. The tracker will immediately know if the spoor has gone cold. Where there is no sign at all, a cast will take place from the last known confirmation sign in order to reestablish the spoor. This sweep will generally take the form of walking in a circle some meters from the last known sign. If nothing is found, then the tracker must rely on his judgment and follow the original direction in hope of regaining the track. Deception techniques are a clear indication of the enemy's intentions, which will provide the tracker with useful information. It will also make the tracker very aware that the deception may be followed by the enemy placing a mine, IED, or an ambush. It is also a clear indication that the tracker is on the right spoor, but needs to be careful. Summary. You should now be aware of visual tracking signs and the categories they fall into. Added to which, you should also understand a little about what they mean and how they are affected by weather, time, and environmental conditions. You should also be aware of where to start looking for signs so that you have the best start point possible and the clearest footprint. Finding this start point is vital to any visual tracking as indicated in the true story below. During the Vietnam War, Sergeant Laurie Fraser was in command of a patrol from C Troop 1 Squadron SASR during its tour of duty from March 1967 to February 1968. Although Fraser was only 29 years old at the time, he was well experienced in jungle fighting and an excellent visual tracker. Having joined the Army in 1956, he had served in Malaya, and later, having joined the SAS, went on to patrol in Sarawak. On the evening of May 3, 1967, a helicopter dropped his patrol into an LZ 5 kilometers northeast of Nui Thi Vai, in the western province of Phuoc Tuy Province. The helicopter had dropped the patrol in a small, open area, covered with meter-high grass. This grassy area was no larger than 100 meters square and surrounded by high jungle, but almost immediately, Fraser found some fresh tracks. The patrol started to track the enemy, but within minutes the patrol came under fire. It was answered with suppressive fire from the air as the helicopter fire team was still covering their insertion. Fraser realized that their position was now hopeless due to the compromise and immediately recalled the helicopter to extract them. On the afternoon of May 18th, the patrol was in action once again. This time their mission was to carry out an ambush northwest of Bin Ba. Once more they were inserted into an LZ by helicopter where everything seemed quiet, so they set off for their objective. Not far along the route, they noticed sign and started to move forward slowly. Some half hour into the follow, they spotted a single Viet Cong, VC, soldier. Private Jim Harvey immediately fired off a 40mm grenade and the VC was killed. Suddenly, a heavy machine gun manned by a group of VC opened up on the patrol and Harvey was wounded. Taking Harvey with them, the rest of the patrol tried to get back to the LZ under the cover of smoke, putting through an urgent request on the radio for an extraction. With the VC attempting a flanking movement to cut them off, it was a race as to who would get there first. Fraser's patrol won. Once again, a helicopter light fire team laid down suppressive fire, although this time the firefight was much fiercer than at Nui Thi Vai. Eventually, under heavy enemy fire but without any further casualties, the patrol was extracted. Emergency extractions were not always necessary, however. On June 7, Fraser's patrol was again dropped off at an LZ in an area of primary jungle 7 kilometers northeast of Nui Dat. This time the insertion was completed without any problem and they set to tracking down the enemy. 2 days later, they came across clear, conclusive sign of the enemy and, due to the numbers, decided to lay an ambush of claymore mines on a track frequented by the VC. Sure enough, at 14:45 hours, 6 enemy troops walked into the ambush and were all killed. One happened to be a VC tax collector, and the patrol found a large sum of money on him. Their mission a success, the patrol was extracted and returned safely to Nui Dat with the tax revenue.